Hey, I'm E.B. Moss. If you're in the media or marketing business, and chances are if you've read MediaVillage or listened to these podcasts, you know that the competition for consumer attention is pretty fierce, especially with video. While linear television still delivers that broad reach that's great for brand awareness, digital video services are laying claim to targeting and addressability. But almost every network has a way to offer both, driving a need to differentiate themselves and attract or retain ad budgets from marketers who want both targeting, or precision as A+E Networks calls it, and proof of performance, like attribution or business outcomes. So for episode 51 of Insider Insights, I had a conversation with the Senior Vice President of A+E's Precision and Performance Ad Sales Group, Ethan Heftman, to understand their very unique approach to this dual opportunity. Now, here's what you should also know about A+E Networks. Yep, I've been saying A+E, and we'll explain that in our conversation in a minute. Between its channels like Lifetime, History, FYI, Viceland, and of course, A&E, the channel, they've also got gaming, websites, even educational software, helping them reach more than 250 million people globally. And they were the first to guarantee some business outcomes. So you'll want to lean in and listen to this excellent overview of precision and performance, and for a special message from me, E.B. Moss, at the end of the podcast. Ethan Heftman, so nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too, E.B. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We actually just met, and yet I feel like I know you because I've watched a lot of different videos. I've read a lot about you, so this is pretty cool.
It's nice of you to say. I appreciate that. It's nice to hear that somebody is listening, other than my mom.
So, Ethan, tell me a little bit about where you came from and how you describe what you do here at A+E Networks.
Sure. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Actually, before I do that, the reason why the parent company is A+E Networks, not A&E Networks, is because we are a global company and the ampersand doesn't translate into a lot of foreign languages. Ampersand is an English language creation. So when the company expanded globally, we had to change the parent company name to the plus, because the plus translates globally. So.
And a little sidebar, do you actually say A+E? Was I like the cool kid in town saying that?
Yeah,
or
we are.
A&E colloquially?
The network is A&E, the company is A+E. So you had it exactly right.
Okay.
Yes.
We've already educated our listening audience.
We should quit while we're ahead.
Tell me about you.
Absolutely. So I come to this from somewhat of a traditional background compared to a lot of the people that I run across in my current role. I started at an agency. I started at an ad agency called TBWA Chiat Day back in the late 90s, back when agencies still had full media operations. I started as a national television buyer, actually. Spent a few years there, moved on to OMD when OMD was formed out of the media arms of Omnicom, of Chiat Day, of BBDO, of DDB. After that, I went on to Mediacom. I spent a long time at Mediacom. That's where I picked up a lot of my digital background, learned how to work with clients, learned how to work with strategy, learned about trading, about deal making, and then I went on to Initiative, both in New York and Los Angeles. And after about 16 years, I realized that it was probably time to make a change, and that was about 7 years ago, came to A+E Networks. And I've done a number of things at A+E Networks. I've worked on traditional sales desks. I've run sales teams. I was fortunate enough to work for Amy Baker in our client strategy and insights group for a couple of years. And then for almost the last 2 years, I've been privileged to work on on our precision and performance ad sales team, which really is a fancy way of saying we are a group of people here across ad sales, across research, across client insights that specialize in moving the business away from Nielsen age and gender trading into more advanced audience targeting and audience trading.
I'm going to slow you down right there. We're going to come back to, I think, each of those last 20 words. And for people like me who didn't spend like 15 years on the agency side and 7 years developing this area, let's start with something for the uninitiated.
Yes.
The definition of attribution.
Sure. So I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible. For us, attribution is the exercise in tying a media exposure on A+E Networks to a specific business outcome. It is going beyond simply the discussion of what type of media metric we delivered, the delivery of an impression, and moving on to what type of action, behavior, etc. did that impression cause.
And if I take it outside of A&E for now, what's attribution in the general marketplace?
Attribution in the general marketplace is pretty much identical to what we call it at A&E, or how we think about it, but it probably from the macro level, it's about what does each media impression, what impact does it have within the purchase funnel? Is that impression fueling a behavior at the top of the funnel, which is
the awareness
an
area.
awareness, exactly. Mm-hmm. Is it fueling a behavior in the middle of the funnel, which is a consideration type of area, or is it fueling an action at the bottom of the funnel, which is a sales area, a specific outcome type of area? And one of the things that we like to talk about with our precision and performance product is TV's value at driving outcomes in each of those three areas of the funnel. Historically, television has been credited with outcomes at the top of the funnel, that awareness level. It hasn't been properly credited with outcomes in the consideration segment of the funnel or in the real action. Driving a web visit, driving a store visit, driving a specific sale. We're trying to move the conversation into all areas of the funnel.
Again, there's performance, as in precision and performance, and then there's precision.
Yep.
So let's talk about that P word.
Sure, P&P, as we like to call it specifically. Again, we try to make this as simple and accessible as possible for our advertisers. And to that end, precision is our advanced audience targeting tools. Those are the tools we use to find audiences beyond Nielsen age and gender demos. That is the use of advanced data sets, whether it's MRI, whether it is set-top box data from an MVPD or from the actual glass manufacturer, whether it's Axiom data, Polk data, or first-party data that an advertiser provides us. Precision is the process and the tools by which we find those discrete audience segments beyond broad Nielsen age and gender demos. Performance are the tools that we use to discuss, find, and prove specific outcomes within that purchase funnel. So we believe that precision and performance are best used hand in hand. The better job you do of identifying and finding those discrete audience segments, the better job you do of picking day parts and programs that deliver against them, the better outcomes you will have when we do the attribution studies. We like to use them hand in hand, but they don't have to be. Okay. If an advertiser wants to do their own advanced targeting and work with us to build a schedule that delivers against it, we're still happy to do a performance outcome study for attribution on the back end.
So in your ideal world, television, video, etc., has moved away from really just broad brand awareness. And it's getting more and more refined as we have to chase the consumer wherever they are and identify actions that consumer takes as reflective of the kind of buyer that we want to reach as an advertiser. So A+E, A+E, will use all tools in its arsenal, and that is performance and that's precision. So it's how do you attribute the buy to someone who's viewed and engaged with your content, and how do you reach that specific audience that the advertiser is looking for. Did I get it?
You got it.
All right.
And I would say that we like to be careful with the idea that the business has moved in that direction. We believe fundamentally, and we're trying to be on the leading edge of its movement in that direction, but there will always be a balance in TV of the value of broad messaging traded on broad demographics and the value of more targeted, discrete audiences. That will always remain about. That balance is something that we think is very important, and it's something that we like to talk about. We're not looking to move the business entirely away from where it has always traditionally been.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And it's interesting that you say that, because at the recent VAB, the Video Ad Bureau Impact Conference, where I know Roseanne Montanet also spoke, on a panel with Nicole Panchis from Ampersand, she did say that, without brand marketing, you can target me as much as possible, but if I don't know what your brand is because of the awareness of pure marketing, what's the point? So that's the balance that's needed.
That's exactly the balance. For too long now, the business has been overweighted towards specific actions, whether it is search or immediate last-click web conversion. We have always said, and we continue to say, that the value of brand advertising is in the combination of broad reach and specific focus. And what we're trying to do is ensure that each of those points in the funnel, each of those messages is given its proper value.
So that makes sense to me. And I know you'll get into kind of how you assess that. I know you have a formula for attribution or performance guarantees, but I want to make sure I understand this. So if I'm watching, and I'm saying I'm going on record, let's say Married at First Sight on Lifetime. Not too ashamed to admit it.
You and me both.
Okay, good.
I love that show.
But we also watch, let's say, American Idol or what have you, and then I go into Jared's and I buy some earrings. Was that thanks to Lifetime? Are you saying that you can show the retailer that there was a direct correlation?
Well, what we're saying is that that visit, that action by the consumer is a result of all of the different media exposures that they saw. And for too long, television has been overlooked as a driver of a specific part of that conversion.
Oh, just the awareness, but not given enough credit for
exactly
spurring the action.
Exactly.
I see.
And what we're doing is we're partnering with what we like to consider best-in-class attribution partners, companies like Data Plus Math and like iSpot, who are coming up with multi-touch attribution models that finally, for the first time, fairly calculate the value of all of those different media touch points to create that conversion.
And then that's married with setting out what the KPIs are for your respective advertiser, and that's where it might be foot traffic, and what else might it be?
Exactly. Well, that's a great question because we're still in the very early days of this, and the two metrics that we feel comfortable guaranteeing are foot traffic and web conversion.
Okay.
Foot traffic obviously is self-explanatory. Web conversion can be a visit to, in its broadest sense, to a brand's website. You can drill down a little farther to a product configurator, for instance, or to a specific deal opportunity. Those are the ones that we're comfortable guaranteeing at this point. There are still a lot of other touch points that are measurable. From a risk management perspective, we're not guaranteeing those as business outcomes yet. It's really those two primary outcomes of foot traffic and web conversion.
So as we picture the customer journey, and I can almost see it physically, the marketers are watching, we're waiting, we're breathless to get them from the gotcha to the gimme. And in that last mile or the bottom of the funnel or whatever, we've made the purchase. You're still saying that you can lay claim to some of that last touch point and you're not necessarily competing with Google AdWords. You've got the formula for expressing how video or television from A+E helped.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that attribution models over the last 5 to 10 years have become far too overweighted in
just the last point.
In the last point. That's
right.
Exactly right. Whether it be Google or Facebook, they're getting too much credit. They're taking away credit value from the platforms that drive brand awareness or drive mass reach of specific offers. What we're saying is that we are now partnered with companies who are finally, for the first time, doing a fairer weighting of the value of each of those touch points.
Makes sense. And so that's where the other P comes in. We focused a lot on performance in our conversation, but the precision, I guess, is that where it's the best of both worlds when it's a longer consideration purchase and there's a little bit more qualifying the audience with more brand awareness?
Sure. I think the thing that we know the best is what our programming, what our audiences, how they behave. And when we overlay that with discrete segment data, we can get a really great indication of how to custom craft a campaign. We're really proud of the team that works on this business, and from a research standpoint, how well they understand our audiences at A+E Networks, how well they're able to take the audiences by program, by day part, by network, and overlay them with the discrete segments that our partners are looking for, and then translate that into a buy that is not just a traditional kind of blunderbuss, scattershot idea, but taking the best of television, the ability of our content to reach mass audiences with precision targeting built in. I believe that nobody does that better with their audiences than our team does at A+E.
Are there any audiences or even product categories where you can't precision target as well?
There are no categories that we can't precision target as well. We can precision target as well as we're able to ingest data, whether that's first-party data from the advertiser themselves or third-party data that is syndicated that identifies the specific consumers they're looking for. As good as that data is as good as we can precision target. There are categories where it's harder to connect performance, specifically packaged goods, because there are so many different touch points in that chain of sale as compared to perhaps a restaurant or a QSR where it's much easier to follow the path to a store visit. But from a precision standpoint, no, there is no advertiser that can come to us and stump us. We can find your audience. We can find it better than a Nielsen age, gender, demographic. You just have to give us the data.
Now, your 300 million plus sized audience across all of your platforms and offerings, do you precision target or count all of those in your measurement or in your performance goals?
Sure. We can precision target across any platform. We can precision target and we can performance measure across any platform as well. A lot of what I talk about and a lot of what the team talks about is the ability to precision target and talk about outcomes on our linear properties, simply because that is the area.
Difference. Wow.
That's the area that has lagged. We've always been able to talk about performance outcomes in the digital space, in the OTT space. We believe that the real game changer is being able to have that conversation in the linear space and then marry that with the existing conversation in digital and in over the top.
So now I think we've educated our listeners enough that you can really go full steam in explaining the guarantees. So Peter Olson talked back in 2018 about how he thinks that outcomes are really a game changer. So how has this evolved in the year and a half or so since you've put the guarantee out there, and what is it?
Yeah, so essentially we guarantee at A+E Networks, we guarantee two specific outcomes. That is store foot traffic, and that can be, like I said, to a store, it can be to a restaurant, it can be to an auto dealership, and we guarantee web conversion. That can be a visit to a broad website, it can be a visit to a product configurator. Any type of web behavior that can be tagged is something that we are willing to guarantee. We've done this now across 48 advertisers across a number of product categories. There are a couple of categories that we've seen strong interest because we believe the attribution is accurate and robust and repeatable from a data standpoint. It works very well for autos. It works very well for restaurants. It works very well for retail. We're not saying that is any kind of lightning bolt that hadn't occurred to anyone else. What we are saying is that we are comfortable managing the risk, guaranteeing specific behaviors. If an advertiser is willing to let us use our entire audience, let us precision target across our entire audience, find the most valuable consumers, serve a message to them, we will guarantee that a behavior will occur on the back end.
Excellent. And how will this continue to evolve in the coming quarters or next years ahead?
So from an evolution standpoint, for us, it's about expanding those behaviors that we are willing to guarantee. It's about working with our attribution partners. It's about working with our identity matching partners. It's about working with data providers to create more behaviors that we feel can be managed from a business standpoint so that we can guarantee them for the advertiser.
How else has A+E changed its kind of go-to-market marketing? How are you communicating this and really educating the whole marketplace?
Sure. For us, it's a really holistic conversation with the advertiser. We pride ourselves on not over-promising anything. We don't make the claim that this is the future and it has arrived today fully, baked and ready to go. We understand that the world is becoming more fragmented in terms of viewer consumption. We understand that demand continues to be strong from advertisers looking to get into television. We want to be able to offer each and every one of those advertisers a buying opportunity that works for them. If you are still interested in broad audience reach, we can provide that and we can trade on that. If you're an advertiser that's considering leaving television because the inflationary premiums on Nielsen trading have gotten too onerous for you. If you're an advertiser that wants to try television for the first time, but you're not willing to come unless there's a conversation that can be had about your business results and what television does for it, we want to be your first choice partner to come to. So we're saying that we're building this muscle. We have best-in-class partners. We would like to work with anyone that's looking to build this muscle too.
And are brand marketers the one who are more likely to call you, or are the agencies really receptive as well?
We see it both ways.
Okay.
The reality is that we have had a traditional sales channel at A&E and in national television in general, which is through agencies. Mm-hmm. There is nothing about this change in targeting, change in trading that makes that any different. The agencies are fully engaged. They recognize the value in this. They recognize that this is the way the world is moving. It is to their eternal credit that they are attempting to move their clients in that direction. That said, we will have this conversation with anyone who wants to have it. If it's a brand marketer, if it's a brand that doesn't have a traditional agency relationship yet because their business is still scaling up, we will absolutely talk to them. But we are not in the business of alienating any constituency. We are in the business of building a tent and inviting all who want to enter to come on in.
It sounds like the good way to go. Ethan, I want to give you a lot of credit for making this tangible and understandable. I think that you are definitely a right brain, left brain, perfect combo kind of guy. And I also want to say, when I sent you a few talking points, like, should we talk about this? Should we talk about that? You said, I'll get back to you after the long weekend. I'm heading out with the kids. And then I come to find out that you and 3 small kids went to a water park.
Yes,
How was that?
It was wonderful. I'm going to give an unpaid endorsement to Kalahari.
Okay.
We did spend a couple of days out at Kalahari in the Poconos for our winter break. I had a wonderful time, and actually, probably most importantly, to your earlier part, I am only able to do this because I work with an amazing, wonderful team who challenge me and force me to become smarter. They're the ones, whether it's the sales team that I work with, Roseanne Montanay and her crew, who you just mentioned, or David Ernst and his research team. We have a really wonderful team here, and I'm only able to do what I do and sound how I sound because of them, and I'm only able to take time off to go to Kalahari with my kids because they get the job done so well. So I could not be more fortunate for this opportunity to talk to you and for the opportunity I get every day to work with them. So thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Ethan did a great job of explaining things. I think you could hear my aha moments. Going forward, I'll be producing a new B2B podcast, still covering the same important industry topics and high wattage industry execs that you've come to expect after some 50 past episodes. Now, as voice has evolved, though, it's important to have a name that Alexa or Bixby or whatever assistant you use can find easily. So please look for, ask for, and now subscribe to Insider Interviews with me, E.B. Moss. That's Insider Interviews with E.B. Moss. And many, many thanks for all the support you've shown these past couple of years.